All right, so how did you want us to introduce you? As an author, a public speaker, or an athlete?
Just Coda.
A professional soccer player. He's an author. He's a public speaker. Kotaro Umeda.
When we first moved to America, we were living in a small apartment in Cleveland, Ohio. Every day after school, my brother and I would go up to the racquetball court and kind of train each other and play with each other. He would beat me every single time. And on the weekends, my dad would join us when he didn't have work. It would always be my brother and my father versus myself. And I was still, 6, 7 years old.
He was always good. Like, he was always better than like his peers when he was playing with the local kids and things like that. Even when he was growing up, playing on better teams, he was always good. To me, like, professional level seemed miles away. It was something that like none of us could really achieve. But for him, I think he always believed in himself, and like he always thought he could get to that level. And I think that's what kind of differentiates people that make it from the people that don't.
I didn't really have a choice of playing any other sports. My father was very, very strict.
本当言えばメッシみたいなすごいテクニックがあってすごい魅力的な選手として見てもらいたいけども、やっぱりきちんと自分のやってることをやっていつも常に全力を出して楽しんで見てほしいと思います。
My father was a professional trainer for Kashiwa Racers, so I spent a lot of my time growing up at their games, in the locker rooms with the players, and so I just kind of was surrounded by a very professional environment, and I think that's where I started gaining interest.
初めて小太郎を、ロッカールームに連れて行った時に柏レイソルのチームの人たちが選手の人たちが小太郎と遊んでくれる。小太郎が小さい時はテクニカル的にはすごく良くて、これはいいなと思ったんですけども、少しずつ大きくなってだんだんとチームに混じるようになった時にやっぱり自分の考えと違ってて、いつもサイドラインで叫んでいたらそのチームのコーチから
There were times where my father wouldn't let me come back in the house unless I got 100 juggles. There were times we would go on vacation and my father would have me run suicides in the hotel parking lot.
I feel like growing up, like our lives always like revolved around soccer. Like in our living room, the couch was always the goal, right? We had a ball in the house all the time. We would always like shoot on each other, things like that. My friends were usually through soccer. My brother would always just like hop in. He's like 4 years younger, right? Like when you're like really young, I think 4 years is like a big difference in skill set, physicality, things like that. But he always kept up.
Having an older brother kind of meant everything to me. Everything I learned in soccer was through him. When we were young, we didn't have money. We were kind of living paycheck to paycheck, so it was really difficult for us to maintain a consistent soccer lifestyle because club can get pretty expensive. So seeing all the combines and college recruiting camps that he went to and seeing kind of how the recruiting system was very important for me. And within the first few years of Cleveland, we were living in 3 different apartments and just things were getting really difficult for us. For me, I really hated Christmas when I was young because a lot of my classmates would have the newest sneakers and they'd get loads of presents. Whereas for me, I woke up on Christmas Day mornings and to an empty Christmas tree, and those are some of the memories that I had growing up. We never really realized how expensive, soccer was in America compared to other countries. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 12, and at that time it was really hard for me because I was still very young and I was still naive to the fact that there was a possibility of life even with cancer. The only thing I kind of knew at that point was I related cancer to death. I was forced to quit the club team that I was on because we weren't able to pay the bills. So it kind of forced me to go into a dark phase in my life. I had to train by myself in the backyard, in the front yard, in the garage when it was snowing. And it just kind of teaches you things that you can't learn anywhere else in life.
He never give up. Even though I feel like it's very tough and sometimes I feel like it's impossible, and sometimes I wanted to say you can quit or you can finish anytime, but he never say I will give up. That's learned for my life too. Sometimes I want to give up, but then I, learned from him.
I kind of wanted to make my dream a reality for them, for my mom and my father. It was really hard for us to kind of get into the recruitment stage of my career. It was very hard for us to decide where I should go. My trainer at that time, he took me to my very first college soccer game, and it was the 2010 national championship between Louisville and the University of Akron. I had the opportunity to go to the University of Louisville in 2016 and eventually transfer to the University of Akron. So I think it's cool to see where God places you. First game in spring season, we played Chicago Fire in the MLS, and one of our players ended up getting injured, so I went in with about 70 minutes left, and I think that's when I was able to kind of just put my mind aside and play my own game. I stepped in and I did my job. It was a very dark time for me. It was my first time being away from my parents. My dad's Buddhist and my mom believes in Christianity, but I grew up Buddhist in the household. A teammate of mine at that time took me to a FCA meeting, which was the Fellowship of Christian Athletes at the University of Louisville. And my first time being there, I was just so amazed and so inspired to hear some of the testimonies that the other athletes went through, and just seeing what God has done in their life was very inspiring to me, and it made me feel comfort away from home. And so I was so amazed, and I just kept studying Christianity. I think that's where my journey of being a believer began. In my professional career, there's been so many ups and downs, and I think God kept me level, kept me straight on so many occasions. My first year at the University of Akron, when I transferred there, I kept sending a lot of scouts my videos in Brazil because a lot of the players that my father worked with at Kashiwa Reysol when he was a trainer ended up being head coaches in a lot of clubs in Brazil. The game after the University of Pittsburgh, I got a phone call from my father saying that one of the clubs had offered me a professional contract, and this was in the middle of the season at the University of Akron, where we were ranked number 2 in the country. So it was a big decision for me. I definitely hesitated at first, but it was a easy decision for me to follow my dreams, and I decided to forego my junior and senior year at the University of Akron. When I first got to Brazil, it was very difficult for me. It was a culture shock. Going to a place where I don't know anybody, I can't speak the language, completely different culture. It was scary. I remember the first few weeks, few months, it was very difficult, and I just kept calling my mom, and I would cry a lot because of how hard it was.
Brazil is so far, and I haven't been to travel to visit to see him, so I was very sad, but I'm so happy he sent pictures. My husband and I pray for him every day.
The only person I rode with was God. I would talk to him every night and just ask him to continue to protect me and bless me with so many opportunities. And I think because of him, I was able to overcome a lot of the difficulties that I faced there. For them, soccer wasn't just a game; it's a religion, and it's do or die for them. In Brazil, if they don't make it in soccer, they don't got nothing to go back to, And so just the level of hunger to succeed is different, and I think that kind of creates that grit. Before I went to Brazil, I kind of put my identity into soccer. I always define myself as a soccer player, and then it's dangerous because soccer is so inconsistent. One day you're so loved and everyone knows you, and another day if you play bad, nobody wants to talk to you, everybody ignores you. So it has its highs and its lows, and it's very inconsistent, so it's dangerous. And the moment I put my identity in Christ, it helped me play better, it helped me be a better person, and and kind of realize that soccer is just a sport at the end of the day, and enjoy what I do, because it's not gonna last forever. And so when I first came back to America, I think I had that pure joy in me, and just do love what I do. For my friends and supporters in Brazil, sou imensamente grato por todo mundo que eu encontrei lá. Eu não tenho palavra para definir meus emoções, né? Eu fui lá como um menino, eu acho que eu saí lá como um homem. Eu sou imensamente grato por todo mundo que eu encontrei lá. Eu sempre tenho um espaço no meu coração para meus amigos e minhas amigas no Brasil. Eu acho que vocês são as melhores pessoas do mundo. Vocês sempre me abraçaram. Eu sou muito grato por minha experiência. Eu acho que não consegui conquistar as coisas que eu queria ou gostaria de conquistar dentro do campo, no futebol. Só que as experiências que eu tinha lá, fora do campo, com as amizades, os relacionamentos que eu tinha, eu vou guardar no meu coração para sempre. Então, muito obrigado de coração. Obrigado. 絶対お父さんとお母さんはこれ見るともう本当に、ね、自分は心から感謝してます。ね、お父さんお母さんの努力を見てきて、ね、それだけやっぱり辛い時もあったし、それだけね、お兄ちゃんと僕のために犠牲にしてくれたのはやっぱり僕はすごい理解してるし、そのために本当に頑張りたいし、だからお父さんとお母さんのおかげで僕もね、今少しずつ前に進んでいけてると思うし、だから本当に心から感謝してます。でやっぱり日本にいる人たちにも本当にね、どこ行ったってやっぱり日本人として代表で見られてるので、やっぱりそれにすごい誇りを持ってるので、それを本当にメッセージとして送りたいですね。やっぱり日本人として僕も本当に感謝してるし嬉しいので、ありがとうございます。